Most gasoline engines don't fail suddenly. They fail slowly. So slowly that most drivers never realize anything is wrong until the damage is already done. And in many cases, it starts with one sensor that almost no one ever cleans. Most drivers waste thousands of dollars fixing the wrong parts. Not because their car is unreliable, but because one dirty sensor slowly lies to the engine computer. Today, I'll show you which sensor this is, why it fails so often without triggering a warning light, and how a simple maintenance step can save your engine and your money. Modern engines don't really run on fuel and air alone anymore. They run on data. Every throttle input, every gear change, every cold start is calculated by the engine computer based on information coming from sensors. When that information is accurate, the engine feels smooth, responsive, and efficient. When the data slowly degrades, the engine still runs, but it begins making small mistakes. Those mistakes compound over time. The sensor responsible for more hidden problems than almost any other is the mass airflow sensor, often called the MAF sensor. Its job sounds simple. It measures how much air is entering the engine, so the computer knows exactly how much fuel to inject. That single measurement influences power delivery, fuel economy, idle quality, emissions, and long-term engine wear. If the airflow reading is wrong, every decision downstream is affected. Here's why this sensor fails so quietly. Inside the MAF sensor is a tiny heated element. Air passes over it, and the sensor measures how quickly it cools. From that cooling rate, the engine computer calculates airflow, but that element must stay perfectly clean. Even a very thin film of contamination can skew readings by 10 to 20%. Not enough to trigger a warning light, but enough to slowly damage the engine. Let's look at a real-world scenario. Two identical cars, same engine, same mileage, same maintenance schedule. One owner mostly drives highway miles, long trips, steady speeds, full warm-ups. The other owner drives short trips, cold starts, 5 to 10 minutes, shutdown. After a few years, one engine feels strong and efficient. The other feels sluggish and inconsistent. The difference isn't luck, it's operating conditions. Short trip driving is one of the biggest contributors to MAF sensor contamination. When an engine doesn't reach full operating temperature, fuel doesn't burn completely. Moisture builds up inside the intake system. Oil vapors circulate through the crankcase ventilation system. Over time, those vapors pass through the intake and coat the MAF sensor element. The engine still runs, so the driver assumes everything is fine. But the data the computer relies on is already drifting. Another major contributor is aftermarket oiled air filters. Even when installed correctly, they release a fine oil mist. That oil sticks to the sensor element, acting like insulation. Air still flows, but the sensor can't read it accurately. Fuel trims slowly increase. Throttle response becomes inconsistent. Fuel economy drops. Most drivers never connect these symptoms to a dirty sensor. This is why the problem often goes undiagnosed. A dirty MAF sensor rarely fails all at once. It fails gradually. Acceleration becomes less responsive. Idle becomes slightly rough. Fuel economy drops by a few miles per gallon. Nothing dramatic, nothing urgent. So parts start getting replaced. Spark plugs, fuel injectors, oxygen sensors, even transmission components. The real issue remains untouched. Here's what's happening behind the scenes. When airflow data is inaccurate, the engine computer compensates. It adjusts fuel delivery. It alters ignition timing. It changes how the transmission behaves. Over time, those adjustments become learned behavior. The engine runs richer than necessary. Carbon builds up on valves and piston rings. Oil contamination increases. Wear accelerates quietly, mile after mile. This is also why many cars never trigger a check engine light. The sensor isn't dead, it's just wrong. The readings are still within acceptable limits, even though they're no longer optimal. So the computer adapts instead of warning you. By the time a fault code appears, damage may already be done. Many shops replace the MAF sensor immediately. Not because cleaning doesn't work, but because replacement is faster, simpler, and more predictable. Cleaning takes time, it requires care, and the results aren't always instant. But in most cases, the sensor isn't broken. It's dirty. There is one mistake that permanently destroys MAF sensors. Touching the sensor element. Not with fingers. Not with cotton swabs. Not with brushes. Not with compressed air. That element is extremely delicate. One touch can ruin calibration and turn a cleanable sensor into an expensive replacement. The only safe way to clean a MAF sensor is with dedicated MAF sensor cleaner. Nothing else. No brake cleaner. No carb cleaner. No throttle body cleaner. Spray only, from a distance. Let the cleaner do the work, then allow the sensor to air dry completely before reinstalling. Patience matters here. Once cleaned, the engine computer finally receives accurate airflow data again. Fuel delivery stabilizes. Throttle response improves. Idle smooths out. Fuel economy often recovers. Sometimes immediately, sometimes gradually, as the computer relearns correct values. As a general guideline, this sensor should be cleaned every 30 to 50,000 miles. More often if you drive mostly short trips, live in dusty environments, or use oiled air filters. Cleaning it too often doesn't help. Ignoring it entirely is expensive. If cleaning doesn't improve performance, or fault codes persist, then replacement may actually be necessary. But cleaning should always come first. Always. Modern engines are incredibly precise. Small errors that didn't matter years ago now have real consequences. This is why maintaining sensor accuracy is just as important as changing oil or spark plugs. If this explanation helped you understand how modern engines really work, subscribe to Best Car Tips. We focus on real-world maintenance that helps engines last longer, not quick fixes that hide problems. Before you go, have you ever cleaned your mass airflow sensor? Comment yes, no, or I didn't even know this existed. Your answer might save another driver from an expensive mistake.